Look who's back.
I know, our buddies from the grass pad.
I got to tell you something. I need everybody to give yourselves a round of applause. It finally happened in my neighborhood.
It's the Post Show with Mike and Mackenzie. You're welcome, America.
Neighbor comes over literally 4 days ago, says to me, it's only been a year and this yard has transformed. I'm like, yep, it
That's
did.
awesome.
Nice.
And I had a little help, which, by the way, Richard and Robin are back from the grass pad. Give it up, Mackenzie! So, seriously, you guys, the neighbor came over the other night, and the look on his face, because he has his yard done, he has people that mow it for him, all this good stuff. And he looks at me and he goes, he's standing in it barefoot, okay? No dandelions, no nothing in that yard. And he goes, it's been a year, and this yard has transformed like this. I said, wait till you see it next year. So I figure once I get down another year, I'll be all right.
Has it even been a year? I mean, I know you've been in the house a year, but have you really been working on that yard for a year?
Well, that's a good point,
Because
Mackenzie.
you moved in, you gave yourself a little time, right?
Well, I wanted to wait till the fall to oversee, and I didn't want to do anything else, so I just kind of limped it through. But yeah, so really, you're right, Mackenzie.
Yeah.
It's only been really, September. So the grass pad, I bet right now, is probably busier than it ever has been.
Yeah, this is the busy time for sure. Yeah.
When we talked last, it was just a couple of months ago, we were going through, everybody was talking about, okay, are we going to seed now in the spring, or are we going to go ahead and put down prevent? We've moved on since that, which you guys are going to get to. What a beautiful display behind us. Mackenzie, look at this.
Those are pretty flowers, and I don't know what any of them are, but they're pretty.
It's funny, we're setting up and the staff's all walking by. I'm like, just keep your grubby hands off of this stuff, please. So right now, what part of the plan are we in? For someone just tuning in right now, grass pad, they want to know. Where are we at?
So hopefully people have already made that decision. Were they seeding or were they not seeding? And they've made maybe steps 1 and 2 on their program at this point. We're coming up on most people's step 3. A lot of people have already put down their seed safe if they did their seeding, or if they were not seeding, they may have already put down their weed and feed. And so at this point, now that it's May, we're going to start rolling into step 3, which is prevent.
Gotcha.
That prevent's going to prevent crabgrass for the rest of the season, and the people that did seed are going to need to wait on that prevent until the new grass is tall enough that it's been mowed a couple of times.
So how do you know when it's tall enough, though? Is that 2-3 mows? What is that? 2
to 3 mows on that new grass. It would be mature enough and strong enough at that point to handle the herbicide.
All right, fair enough. So Mackenzie, crabgrass, that was always my nemesis.
Is that sharp kind of grass?
It's like a real thick-bladed little green grass.
I remember stepping on it in bare feet
invasive.
and not liking it.
It is invasive. I got a weird question, though. And Robin, I'll ask you on that. Now that I've got the yard up to snuff, and I mean, it looks fantastic. The green is there. The weeds are controlled out of it. I'm seeing, like, in a couple of spots, these, like, mushroomy things.
Oh, sure.
What the heck is that?
Well, could be mushrooms.
Like, how do I get rid of those things now?
There's really nothing you should do. That's a sign that you actually have an improving lawn.
Well,
good healthy soil.
You're growing a fungus.
Apparently, I'm growing
healthy
a fungus
soil
now.
is
okay.
Having mushrooms is like a good deal.
So I don't
and
need
20
to
minutes later, they're gone.
Right, yeah. There's nothing you need to do about them. Go kick them over. Let them do their thing. As soon as those conditions are no longer met, they kind of go away on their own, and you should be happy you got them.
I can only ask this in the Midwest, but don't eat these, right?
Yeah, those are not the edible ones.
Well, we don't know for sure.
I'm not going to be the first one to try that.
We're not mycologists.
No, thanks. No, thanks.
Well, that was one of the
morels
questions.
In my backyard at my old house in Gladstone, I had morels pop up.
Did you really?
It was like the proudest dad moment of all. It's like, I don't even have to step out of my own yard to find morels.
Ooh.
Outside of the Midwest, people just would not appreciate a morel. Mackenzie, by the way, your hat is fantastic today.
Isn't that nice?
It's fantastic.
It looks good with my hair. I'm very happy.
Richard, do you want to walk us through what all is on our table back here? Because we got a lot to cover today.
Sure. So we brought over a few things, several different weed killers.
Okay.
So as we start rolling into the summer months, if we start seeing weeds that show up in the summer, like crabgrass or foxtail, or if there's dandelions that haven't been controlled, or clover, we're getting a lot of calls right now on wild violets.
Yes.
The wild violet's going to have a little heart-shaped leaf with a little purple flower on it. And that one actually... We do want like a specialty herbicide for the wild violets.
Okay.
This actually has a purple flag on the front because of the purple flower on the wild violet.
Why don't you make it a little easier for us?
Yeah.
That's good.
And so,
by the way, this does say idiot proof. even the labels are idiot proof. So.
And so that will clean up any of the weeds that don't look like grass in the yard. You can just go through and just hit them You don't have to spray the whole yard. You can just walk around and spray where the weeds are.
Nice. Yeah, I had a buddy of mine the other night. He goes, this wild, like purple stuff just will not quit.
Yep.
So good to know on that. What about that stuff called, is it called henbit?
So the henbit will kind of start to wane as the temperatures warm up.
Okay.
So that's kind of a winter annual. It's really prevalent and visible early in the spring when it's cool.
Right.
But as the temperatures climb, that one will kind of peter out and be replaced by weeds that like the hot weather, like spurge.
Sure.
Spurge looks a lot like the chickweed that you were fighting earlier, but now the spurge will come in the summer. And so one product's going to get all of them.
Did you have any idea there were so many different types of weeds that could be in a yard, Mackenzie?
No.
Because
That's really. What about Clive the Wonder Dog in my backyard? That's a safety, to make sure you're getting and using stuff that's safe for pets.
Yep. So pretty much any of the products, if you've got pets or kids playing out in the backyard, let's say we're going to spray some T-zone. We just need to make sure that T-zone has plenty of time to dry before the kids or pets return to the area.
Okay.
That'd be pretty much with anything. I mean, you wouldn't want to get any of this stuff on you.
Well, yeah.
So as far as, I guess, like even bugs in the yard, will any of these types of sprays or even stuff that we're putting down help with bugs and just critter stuff?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. There's our couple things we brought.
Say
Cyonora.
Nice.
You know what? That's very close to a firework name, Mackenzie. We do a thing where we call nail polish or firework.
Yeah,
we
make a note of that one.
Herbicide or firework,
Okay.
Mackenzie. All
I
right.
love it.
So what's this one do?
Cyonora. This is a pretty general insect control.
Okay.
You can use it on turf, on shrubs, on trees, on vegetable gardens. There's a pretty short pre-harvest interval for it, so it is labeled for vegetables as well.
I'm going to put up a picture right here, but I have a rose bush I just trimmed back right in my landscaping right now, and some of the leaves are they look like they've been eaten. I don't know what it is, but some of the leaves have and some of them haven't. What in the world's doing that?
Boy, without seeing it, that's a tough one. It's a little early for sawfly larvae, but
I saw some this week.
Did you? I was going to say it won't be long now.
I'm going to text you a picture of this because I'm like, I don't know what's happening here.
Yep.
I guess
so
it is May.
the customer brought in some samples to my location, and it was like textbook sawfly larvae damage. And I said, you know what? I bet if we flip this over, I bet there's a little caterpillar on the back of this leaf. And there was.
Yeah.
Sure
It's
enough.
like the same color as the leaf, and it's really small, so it's like really well camouflaged.
Okay.
But even the sample that the customer had brought in, it was right on there. Easy to knock out with a little Cyonora. You just
What a great name.
That means we'll
right
probably
on
start
there.
seeing bagworms too soon, little babies. So it's probably a good idea to go ahead and do a shot of Cyonara to make sure that you get the early hatch on those then.
Yep.
So we've had some new people checking out the podcast. If you haven't already caught episode 1 of this series with the grass pad, check that out. But one thing that I don't think a lot of people know that may be new to KC, maybe just moved here, just bought their first house, grass pad isn't just about seed and fertilizer and the grass part. I mean, look at this table behind us. Talk to us about the nursery, Robin, because I know that's your wheelhouse
that's beautiful stuff.
Yeah, we have a full nursery as well. It goes bedding plants, vegetables, trees, shrubs, perennials, tropicals right now.
Mm-hmm.
So they're loaded up. It's Mother's Day this weekend, everybody.
Right.
Mother's Day this weekend. Make sure you get down and get your mom some pots.
And with this being Mother's Day weekend, I think it's safe to say something that was funny that Richard, you had said this last time, is some people like to plant their tomatoes twice. Which we all, if you try and grow anything and you put it in the ground too early, you're planting again because of the freeze. I'd say now, are you okay with saying we're past the freeze zone?
I feel pretty confident in that.
Yeah.
I plan on planting all of mine this weekend.
Well, yeah, it's May.
Yeah, I was waiting on that. Well, but you don't want to have one of those frosts and then all of a sudden your plants
Bring your tender vegetation inside.
They call it average frost-free date for a reason. It's the average frost-free date.
There we go. Well, these are beautiful behind us. Robin, walk us through what's behind you right now. Just kind of real quick. What are these? Because I don't know the names.
We've got a couple combo pots, and there's so many. I don't know that you guys want to spend a lot of time, but different things like geraniums and bacopa, and we've got some coleus and a tall canna in that one, and looks like sun patient. Nope, that's probably a New Guinea impatient. Doesn't have any flowers on it quite yet.
Right.
More geraniums.
Yep.
Got petunias.
That's what it is, the petunia.
Listen, I have had great luck with super petunias.
Yeah.
They've lasted through the sun as long as I would, when they start to die out, they look like they're dying out. If I pulled all those things off of it, those things just kept going.
Yeah.
And at one point, I cut the
they're
whole
a cool
thing
one.
back, and it came all the way back.
A little deadheading in fertilizer makes a big difference.
Yeah.
All the difference in the world. Now, okay, so for that, what kind of fertilizer do you recommend on your plants like this?
For everything newly planted, something like a good root accelerator would
Sure.
be helpful just
Yeah.
to help get those going. But even throughout the summer, it's got enough of the right nutrients to push blooms and new growth. So keeping them fed,
Yeah.
we get a lot of people who will come in and say, hey, I got this basket and it looks like this when they leave,
Mm-hmm.
but then they get it home and it doesn't.
That's
It
me.
kind of peters out. Like if
I
you got a
know.
month in and it
I'm the
stopped
one.
blooming, why did it stop blooming?
Sure.
Well, are you feeding it?
Right.
Oh, well, they're not
I
feeding
haven't.
it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I forgot
But a
to
good
water it.
liquid once a week, once every couple of weeks,
Right.
depending on what you're using, that'll keep those looking just like they looked at the where you bought 'em.
Fantastic.
I get a hanging basket every Mother's Day.
How long does it last, Mackenzie? 2 weeks?
It should last longer
3
than
weeks?
well now because I know what to do. Because
You know what? She's trying. The fact that I think I can turn Mackenzie. I taught her how to use her air fryer. She had it for months and never used it.
I had it for I bought it during COVID.
Robin, Richard, I think we may turn her into a green thumb.
I could start with my petunia basket.
You could start with one. Just give us one basket. I bet that would be doable for you.
Yeah.
So let's go through this. One thing that came up last time, questions and answers. And everybody has questions, and I'm sure there's common ones that come in. Mackenzie, can you run through for Robin or Richard some of the questions that came in?
Okay. Here we go. I'm already seeing June beetles. Is it time for grub prevention? That's Vicky and Belton.
Grub prevent. Oh, man, those are nasty little things, aren't they?
So the beetles are actually the adult form of the grub.
Uh-huh.
And so people earlier in the spring would have come in and said, oh, I was digging in my garden. I saw some grubs.
What does a grub look like? I don't
It's
know.
like a little white worm.
It's like a
Oh,
fat
okay.
maggot.
I've seen
Yeah.
those.
C-shaped.
Fat
Kind of
maggot.
C-shaped,
That's my
yeah.
favorite band from the 90s. Fat
It is a
maggot.
fat maggot.
I'm going to have to get one of those shirts.
Sorry about that.
So,
We got to talk to marketing. Use
love
it
these
somewhere,
guys.
right?
so the grub is going to turn into a beetle
Right.
and emerge from the soil. And then it's going to be looking for love in all the right places.
Right.
Places like your screen door, the street light,
Ugh.
your pond skimmer.
Lemonade.
Anywhere that they can find other like-minded June beetles.
Sure.
The beetles that people are seeing right now are probably May beetles. And so the May beetle is usually not a big turf pest. It can be maybe in some small patches, but the June bug that's going to come up later or the Japanese beetle that's going to come up later are going to be the big problems with turf and ornamentals. And so grub control is going to want to go down right around the end of June.
Uh-huh.
And then we water it in really well. And then that's going to be your season-long protection from those turf-damaging beetles when they lay their eggs into your lawn and those eggs hatch as grubs. Now, if you have a lot of Japanese beetles breeding is going to last for like a month, whereas a June bug is only going to last about 3 days.
Uh-huh.
So the Japanese beetle, since their breeding is such a long, drawn-out process, sometimes a follow-up application in the fall with a quick kill. So the Dilox quick kill could go down right around the 1st of September, and that would knock out any grub that somehow snuck past your season-long protection.
Sneaky grubs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Golly. All right, then. It almost sounds like a bad science experience sometime, you know? Now, this isn't something that you do once and forget it. I mean, this is something that needs to be done annually. And once you're on a routine, following the system, which, if you haven't seen this in your local grass pad, get that thing. Let's go to another question, Mackenzie.
Okay. This is a problem that I have in my yard. I have 2 large trees with roots coming up through the grass more each year. And I read this could be caused by soil compaction. Do you have a product that helps with compaction in the soil?
Yeah, there are products that help with compaction in the soil.
Uh-huh.
Something along the lines of like soil builder could go down and that kind of boosts microbe production. So they replicate, take up space in the soil. But that particular question probably is not a soil compaction issue.
Oh, okay.
So grass doesn't grow well in the shade. I mean,
Right.
there are more tolerant grass genetics that will do okay in the shade, but grass doesn't like the shade. So under trees being bullies, they take up a lot of soil space with their roots. The shade blocks the sun from the solar panels of the grass blade, and they're also stealing nutrients from the grass. So there's just a whole bunch of things that those trees are doing to prevent that grass from growing there. When there's no grass growing, now we can have erosion from wind and from rain getting through it, animals crawling around at the base of the tree, kids running around the base of the tree. So the best way to solve that problem is go ahead and if you have roots erupting through the soil, go ahead and get some soil over them, not deep, just get them covered, and then get a living plant growing on top of that, plant being grass. That comes into a different problem is how do we grow grass under trees?
Yeah.
And if it's such a deep shade situation where you just can't get it to go, it'll sprout, it'll come up and look good, and you'll think you're the king of growing grass, and then right around midsummer, it starts to die off, and you're just like, oh, what is going on? It's the sun's finally, Peter, that battery's going flat from not having any sun on that solar panel of that blade. So we just seed more often in those situations. So we seed in the fall like we normally would, get everything up and growing, then maybe go out and put out a dormant seeding in January or February on a nice day when it feels good to go walk around, throw some more seed down. Just keep adding to that seed bank. So January, maybe throw some more down in the spring.
Can you put too much seed down?
I have yet to have a customer come in and complain that their lawn came in too thick or too green.
I have one thing that is kind of strange. I have this one section of my house, and it gets a lot of the west sun at night. I think this is what happened. It kind of zapped it, but it was around the foundation of the house, and I put down way more seed than I probably should have.
Yeah.
And it came up lush. I thought, oh no, what have I done? I mean, it was just heavy duty.
Yeah.
And some of it, I don't know, I kept it watered, but through the winter, maybe I put it down too late or something, but will that come back?
So it might self-thin, like
that's
if
what it's doing.
Yeah. If you mulched the seed with more seed, it may have self-thinned.
Yeah.
But, when you talk to these professional grounds guys that do like NFL team football fields,
right,
the rate at which they put seed down in between the hash marks would blow your mind. We talk about putting down 10 pounds of seed per 1,000 square foot. They're talking about putting down 120 pounds.
Right.
And they just let the players cleat it in. It comes up as it will and thins as it needs to.
Something, if somebody hasn't watched the first episode or heard that yet, you and I were talking about this last time. How do you go into the grass pad and know, well, how big is my yard? And you had a great way of suggesting this because I overdid it last year. I thought I had 10,000.
He forgot he had a house on his property.
Oops, forgot that. So again, walk us through, and you had, I think it was with the lawn mowing times. What was that?
Yeah, so, we can get a pretty close estimate from how long it takes you to push mow a yard.
Yeah.
That's fairly accurate. If we want to really dial it down, I'll just type in your address and look at like a real estate website.
That's true.
Like Zillow.
You can just look that stuff up.
Or like on Google Maps, has it on a computer.
Right.
On the phone, it's a little harder, but on Google Maps, there's a measuring.
Sure.
Yeah.
You just go to the address and you can just click, click, click all the way around the property.
Yeah.
We do that quite a bit.
And there are a lot of neighborhoods where, when it was built, they have 5 different models. So the front yards are pretty uniform as far as size is concerned.
Now, that's one thing I know. A lot of new construction is out there now. And what do you tell the person that comes in, they've just bought a house? The yard looks great for that first year, but they don't realize underneath it is, gravel, backfill, all that stuff. How do you help people navigate through that?
My first recommendation on new lawns like that, new construction, she mentioned using the soil builder under the trees to boost that micropopulation, to aerate from the bottom up.
Right.
That's probably my top recommendation if we've got new construction soil.
Right. Okay.
Because rebuilding that native micropopulation by feeding them, you're going to aerate from the bottom up, and you're going to get deeper roots. You're going to have less dependency on irrigation. You're going to get better usage of the fertilizer that goes down. Those nutrients are going to be better absorbed by the plant.
Got it.
The other thing I see a lot of times with new construction is when dead spots appear, I wouldn't immediately think or jump to the conclusion that it's drought or that it's bugs.
Right.
I would get a 8-inch long screwdriver and probe and see what
big old rock down there.
Yeah, what they left in.
Wow. Okay.
Or a tire.
Yeah, I mean, I had a customer that had a
tire.
big dead
they
spot.
just bury stuff.
Shingles, just junk.
Rebar.
I had a customer that had a big dead spot, and we were like trying to figure out if it was disease.
Yeah.
And I said, let's just go home and probe that with a screwdriver.
It was a Volvo, wasn't it? There was a Volvo.
It was a manhole cover.
What?
Yeah.
In the yard?
Yeah.
So then what do you do? You have to dig it up, don't you? What do you do?
Basically, it had just gotten sodded over. And so he edged it out. It was like a concrete pad with a manhole cover, and he just had to edge that out. And
Like, we're going to put a little statue
Did anybody
here.
look under the cover?
I didn't.
Like, what's under that cover?
No.
Ninja Turtles, probably.
All right, here's a strange question for you. Ninja Turtles. So are there things kind of right now pest-wise, and this may be a little off topic here, but I had a buddy of mine the other night calls me and he says, hey, I need you to come over. I got people here. Something stinks to high heaven under my deck. I need help taking the deck apart. I'm like, okay. So we take it out. A possum had gotten underneath.
Of course.
Do you have any like magic things that just keep those kinds of things away from your decks and stuff?
You know, we do have repellents, but possums are going to be hard to repel.
Boy, they're brutal,
They
aren't
get
they?
everywhere, yeah.
All right, well, there's that. Mackenzie, next question. What came in?
Okay.
Richard, this one's coming to you.
I have Bermuda. I'm going to say it
You're right.
again. I have Bermuda grass invading my yard from my neighbors. What can I do to get rid of it? I'm assuming the Bermuda grass, not the neighbor. That's John and Gardner.
You're talking. Yes, the grass.
Maybe
Boy.
put a possum under the deck. See if that scares them off.
There you go. That's kind of like Bermuda and zoysia grass, similar, right?
So Bermuda and zoysia are both a warm season grass.
Okay.
So if you go south of here, warm season grasses become very popular. You go north of here, cool season grasses. We are literally at the transition line. They call it the transition zone, to where you can do both here, but most people in the KC metro are going to prefer a cool season grass.
Yeah.
If you go down to like Wichita, most people are probably going to be in warm season grasses. You go up to Des Moines, Iowa, everyone's going to have cool season up there. But we're in the transition zone. So Bermuda is typically not as dark a green. It's not as pretty to look at as, say, bluegrass or a turf-type tall fescue.
Right.
And so most people around here are not going to like the look of the Bermuda mixed in. The Bermuda is going to be brown in the spring. It's going to be brown in the fall.
Right.
It's only really green for, the summer months, whereas like my bluegrass lawn is green literally 11 months out of the year.
Right. Except for August.
Well,
Nothing's green in
mine's
August.
watered and maintains good color through August. But if we're trying to get rid of Bermuda, there's a couple different ways we can go about it. One would be to use a selective herbicide that will pull out the Bermuda and not kill the bluegrass or the fescue. If you go into the store, we'll have a couple of different options.
Yeah.
One of the ones that I did a little experimenting with last year was the turf lawn ester. And I was really happy with the performance that I got out of that turf lawn ester at killing off Bermuda and not affecting the grasses around it.
I feel like you're a mad scientist. Can you imagine his garage? All these certain chemicals and things.
It's hard to walk through.
Good night.
And then the other option would be to just kill off the area. So sometimes customers will come in and the Bermuda is strictly just a patch or a corner or a section. Right. And in that situation, the 1st of August, you just go in with a non-selective and you just kill all the grass in that area, the good grass and the bad, and respray a couple of times just to make sure it's dead. And then early September, you're ready to seed it or sod it with a desirable grass.
Sure. You may have said this a minute ago with the, was it the Cyonora, but clover, is there a certain thing for clover or can that just be lumped into the other?
So the clover would easily be controlled with the T-zone that we were talking about using for the wild
purple,
violets.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, no problem.
And I see back behind you that stick-it. That's some important stuff too.
So the stick-it is kind of interesting. It's a 9-ionic surfactant. And so it's going to break the tension of the water so that the water will sheen out instead of beat up.
Right.
When you look at these leaves on a weed really up close, some of them have little hairs on them.
Absolutely.
And the hairs will push the water up into a bead, and then the bead will roll off. Some of these weeds you look at are real glossy, like a car hood.
Right.
Again, you throw water on a well-waxed car hood, it just beads up and rolls off.
Right.
So the stick-it is going to be an addition that you add to the herbicide so that the water will sheen out and stay on that leaf, giving you more contact with the chemical on that leaf rather than beating up and rolling off.
Mackenzie, this is why you want to go see people that know exactly what they're doing. There's a lot that goes to this.
So, Mike, if I go home and I take some pictures of my front yard, which is not, it's not very big.
Yeah.
Will you go with me to the grass path?
Oh, I'm on the
Help
spot.
me get
In
the
this
things?
case, I will. We need to get that yard fixed.
You will?
I'll help you
will?
with this thing.
I have witnesses.
This will be our little experiment on our own. Listen, there's a couple of rules. One, I don't like riding in the same car with Mackenzie for a variety of reasons. We definitely don't let her drive.
We
but
can
in
take
this
my
case,
car.
This will be a good project for Mackenzie.
I have plenty of room.
So, do you have any clover in your front yard right now?
I think so.
Yeah,
I have a
I
lot
think
of
she's-
dandelions.
She's got a little bit of everything.
I also have a thing growing up my tree, which probably needs to go.
We'll get a picture.
Okay.
Now, I had a house in Prairie Village that, and we were talking about a second ago, with the big roots that are coming out of the ground.
Yeah.
Is it, and I should ask you a second ago, is it okay to cover those with soil and dirt?
Yes, as long as it's not too deep. So just cover them maybe an inch
Okay.
would be
Okay.
Pretty good rule of thumb.
So they won't rot out though underneath there, right?
Not if they're live roots, they won't.
Okay, perfect. That's good to know.
But it is important to know too, just because you cover them up, those roots get bigger and bigger and bigger every year. They grow bigger around, so they will eventually push through again.
And they're always by a stupid sidewalk.
My parents had sweet gum trees, and we tripped over those roots.
Right.
Sweet gums are really bad.
They were
about
pretty
that.
trees, but I hated them because the.
Yeah, no, I don't know.
And I actually just gave up on that battle. And at my house, each of my mature trees just got a 15-foot wide flower bed under it.
Yeah, you can do
Nice.
that too.
Yeah.
And then I
Ground
planted
cover.
hostas and vinca and a Japanese maple and some hollies. And I just planted shade-loving plants in these little shade gardens under the tree. So I wasn't trying to grow grass all the way up to the trunk of the
Right,
tree.
it's okay not to have that.
So get another question ready. Let's run through watering real quick because I know that we're going to be coming up in that time. Right now, we're blessed with all this rain and everything else. We get to mid-June, coming up to July 4th holiday. Like watering, what do we do there? Where do we even start with that?
You know, I would say in the lawn, I typically don't do any watering until the first or second week of June.
Okay.
I want the grass to have a few days here and there that stresses a little bit so that the grass will grow its own roots.
Sure, that makes sense.
If I'm out there watering in April and May, every time we miss a rain, then the grass gets spoiled.
Sure.
So I'll stress it a little bit sometimes in between these missed rains in April and May. Second week of June, it's usually hot and dry here. And so at that point, I turn my sprinkler on, I let it run. It's little smart analytics to water when it needs it type of thing. But in the nursery, plants that are in the landscape, I'll let Robin
Yeah,
talk about
I don't trust a sprinkler system to do nursery stock like plants, trees, shrubs,
makes sense.
perennials maybe.
Yeah.
Those things, especially if they're newly planted, don't plant newly planted stuff and then walk away from it and expect your sprinkler to take care of it. Hand water that once a week, just flood it.
Yeah.
Once things get established, a year or two in, then it's okay to kind of let Mother Nature take over, and help boost that irrigate or help use the irrigation to boost the rain.
Makes sense.
Whenever you can.
I like that idea of stressing a little bit. That makes sense where those roots dig down in. Another interesting question, though, because people have asked me this. Well, how high should I be mowing my yard? Like right now, I'm mowing it at the top level just because I can't keep up with it, it seems.
Yeah.
Is that okay? Or should I be trying to get it down shorter right now?
I think that's very similar to like arguing about what the best tennis shoe is.
Okay. So you can't go wrong either way.
It's mowing tall is a way to conserve moisture. And so in times of the year where you have very little moisture, mowing tall is absolutely what you should be doing.
Got it. That
In the
makes sense.
spring and in the fall, when moisture is more plentiful, I tend to mow a little bit shorter. And the reason I do that is because if the grass is mowed a little shorter, then the blades of the grass will dry quicker with the sun and the wind. And so that helps prevent a lot of your diseases that are spread or caused by wet leaves.
Got it.
So if you got really tall grass in the spring, when it's constantly wet, you're going to see more incidences of things like powdery mildew because the grass blades are not drying out quickly. Mowing a little bit shorter in the spring and in the fall, when the water is plentiful, is going to help you in that disease battle.
Right.
As it dries out, you start raising the mower. Now, you made the comment of, I can't keep up.
Yeah.
So I had to mow tall because I'm not keeping up.
Right.
That's very valid. You don't want to mow off more than a third of the plant at a time. That's stressing the plant.
Okay, I didn't know that.
It makes it try to grow fast because it has to replace that foliage in order. That's its survivor. That's the survivor instinct.
Yeah,
in it.
yeah.
Mackenzie, what level are you mowing your yard at right now? This will be funny.
What level?
Jason handles her yard.
Jason
guys.
handles
Jason,
the
her
yard.
husband handles her yard.
The yard is outside.
Thank you,
So
Mackenzie.
I don't do the yard.
So
but
see,
Mike's going to fix that.
Our experiment with her front yard is going to be quite interesting over the next few months. Another question, Mackenzie. What do we got on the list?
Do I need to aerate my lawn right now? And can someone tell me what aerating means? Because I don't even know what that means.
You did good. You got it right.
So I would say like aerating, there's physical aeration where you have a plugger that pulls a plug of soil out of the ground and lays it on top.
I've seen that where the little claw things go and pulls up dirt. Okay.
But is that good? You got to pick those things up?
So you don't pick them up. The process of pulling that plug out of the ground lets the soil kind of take a breath. And as it collapses back, that's relieving the compaction. The soil that you pulled up and on top of the ground then will melt with water, and that will eat up thatch that's on top of the ground. But that's a process that you want to save for the fall.
Okay.
So I wouldn't do that physical aeration where you're pulling the plugs until we get to the fall. September is a good time to do that. Now, a microbial aeration is something that I would absolutely do right now.
What's microbial aeration?
I have no idea what that is.
So that soil builder that we talked about a couple of times now, if you throw that down right now, that's going to feed those soil microbes, and you're going to aerate from the bottom up without physically disturbing the lawn. So you're not bringing up the weeds. You're not cutting your Google fiber cable with the machine.
Right.
There's really not very many downsides. The big upside is with that microbial aeration, you'll get deeper roots. And as we go into the summer, those plants will use less water.
What would you say, Robin, the biggest mistake that somebody that's on the plan is making right about this time of year?
Well, I don't want to call a mistake because people are trying, but we've seen a lot of people come in and they're ready to go ahead and seed spots right now, but they already put the prevent down.
Right.
And some of them aren't just a few spots. They're areas as big as this room. Where had we discussed it with them earlier, we could have gotten in front of them on that. They could have seeded and just changed up the plan a little because you can't seed. There's things you have to do in order to go ahead and seed if you've used a pre-emergent, and it's a chore.
So if you're completely lost, take some pictures, go into and don't do anything.
Right, don't do anything yet. Yes.
And go in and ask for help.
Yeah. And, we do a lot of planning in January, February. We get all excited about it. And then all of a sudden the busyness of spring kind of hits and people are, there's kids playing ball and in school and whatever. And now everybody's starting to wind down, or maybe they got a graduation party coming up or something and they're ready to fix this.
And they look at their yard and it's, oh no.
They've heard things we've said. They've heard us, but they didn't hear,
Right.
They got the cart in front of the horse that time.
That's a good point. You said
I've been guilty of that.
So that would be, no, it's not like they're stuck. You know, we can always go and there's a few things we can do if you wanted to seed, but really the best thing to do in those situations right now would be throw sod down in the worst areas, and we'll address it in the fall when it's time to seed. So
you brought up a good point. Graduations, we got parties going on. We got Memorial Day weekend right around the corner. Yard's going to be getting trampled a little bit, taking a little bit of a beating. Are there things you can do in advance to help that, or what's the plan afterwards to get things back on track?
Like I'm going to have a family reunion July 5th at our house. And so looking at my yard, it's thick enough. Like I don't mind. All the kids are going to be out here playing soccer. This is going to be a great surface for them to play on. But I'm going to put down something for the chiggers. I'm going to put down something for the ticks and the mosquitoes. Like I don't want everybody slapping at their ankles, hanging out in the yard, watching the kids play. And so there are things that, you might want to get ahead of if you're having a party like that. If there's a mud hole, can we put sod there? If everybody's going to be in the grass, let's treat for bugs. If, the mulch is all thin and gone and blown away, let's put down fresh mulch. There's things you can do ahead of these parties to get your grounds ready.
Time to plant flowers.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. My uncle's always said order affects outcome, and that's the thing about
you love to say that
because it applies to
true.
Everything. You can be finances, you can be whatever you do.
I know.
But if someone's going to, because a lawn, like anything, is an investment, and done the right way, it's very easy to maintain it and keep it up at a very reasonable cost throughout the year. And you guys do make it easy, because one thing I love is if you go in, your guys aren't going to let me buy something I don't need, or that's going to be done at the wrong time, or isn't applicable to my situation. So right now, again, let's recap before we wrap this thing up. Where are we in the plan again? And what do we need to be thinking about 2-3 months down the road here?
Sure. So if you're on the Idiot Proof program, you're just going to flip open that pamphlet and you're going to see that step 3's coming right up.
Yeah.
If we are looking down the road, we mentioned earlier the grub control that needs to go down around the end of June.
Yep.
We didn't talk a lot about diseases, but
let's run through that real quick, because that is the stuff to watch out for.
Yeah.
Go for it.
So if you've got the white powdery look on patches in the grass where it looks like somebody spray painted white paint on your lawn, that's a disease called powdery mildew that can be treated right now. And so you could hit that with a fungicide right now and knock it right out. It's an easy one to treat.
Okay.
If you don't treat it and all of a sudden it dries up and warms up, then it will probably clear up on its own. If you don't treat it and it stays cool and wet and rainy and overcast, then the problem will persist and that grass will yellow and discolor. So it's usually not worth taking the risk and just go ahead and treat it and knock it out. If we've got a fescue lawn, which a lot of homeowners in Kansas City do,
Yep.
a lot of problems occur with brown patch. So brown patch in fescue is basically a dead spot that appears in the summertime. And to get ahead of that, you could put down a preventative measure of fungus fighter right around the middle of May.
Is that a liquid or a granular?
It's actually a granular.
Okay.
And the reason we like the granular fungus fighter is because it's got 2 different fungicides in it, 2 different modes of action. Okay. So it's like you've got 2 different kinds of hammer attacking this nail. Once you throw down that fungus fighter, that's going to last in the plant, kind of like you gave the plant medicine. It goes in systemically, and it's going to last 20 to 28 days.
Wow. Okay.
And so when we have this hot, humid weather that usually shows up at
It's
the end
coming.
of May, you want to protect the plant from that transition, going from cool and wet to hot and dry.
Yeah.
That's usually when the diseases strike. So throwing down a fungus fighter, usually about the middle of May, and then waiting 20, 28 days and doing a follow-up application gets you through the worst part of brown patch season.
Makes sense. I just got to keep that neighbor's dog from peeing on my yard in those spots. That's what's doing it in mine.
Yep.
All right, now
Where do you think the squirrels go, Mike?
at the street,
Okay.
sidewalk, not in my yard.
This
for
is
sure.
a discussion we've had before, too. And the birds,
Right.
they have a map, too? Okay.
So the other thing I have here, there's the guys, because we were talking to Jim Cosgrove was in last week with us on the podcast, and he was talking about being George Brett's lawn boy for a while back when he was a kid. And I asked him, I said, "Oh, is George Brett a bagger guy, a mulcher guy, or just a let it rip guy? Is it kind of like the shoe thing where bagging or mulching or just throwing clippings down is better than the other?"
I'm a pretty big fan of leaving clippings, mulching them if you could, chopping them up.
Yeah.
But there are times that, like right now, if you're maybe you should mow a couple of times a week, but you only got it once this week, or maybe it rained a few days and it's pretty tall when you do cut it. It'll leave piles, and the piles you don't want that.
Right.
So
Yeah.
bag those if you could. If you don't have a bagging option, you could rake them up, but that seems to be a lot of work. Myself, I like to mow over them tomorrow.
Yeah.
So hit them when they're dry and
Sure.
they shatter. But
And those clippings make great mulch for the plants we're planting right now, right?
So I wouldn't bag up my grass clippings and then purposely go and use that to mulch new flowers.
Oh, you wouldn't?
I would not. Let's say we had sprayed a herbicide on the lawn to kill dandelions or clover, and then you
And then you
cut
that's
those
not
clippings
good.
off.
Yeah.
So if you pile those clippings around your new tomato plants, you might inadvertently be treating your garden with that same herbicide. So I would use the lawn clippings as fillers for my lawn and leaf bag out on the side of the street.
There you go.
And
now, see, I would use the clippings, but I would also, same thing, I would avoid anything that I'd sprayed with any herbicides if I had.
Yeah.
So, and maybe not the flowers in the front yard, but my garden in the back, where they're not as pretty as other mulches.
So Robin and Richard in from the Grass Pad right now. Grass Pad has locations all over the city. You can catch them online, Grass Pad Warehouse. Follow on social. I love the tips and things you put out on social. If you're not following these guys, do it, because like right now you've got the one, time to throw down the prevent. Okay, cool. Yeah, I need to go do that. But they make it super, super easy. What's been the funniest thing that you've seen? You don't have to say any names. What's been the funniest thing that's come into the store in the last week? Picture-wise. These are always good, Mackenzie.
So it wasn't necessarily that what they brought in was funny, but we made light of it. The customer brought in this viney looking weed and was holding it in her bare hands. And handed it to one of my staff. And one of my staff was looking at it in his hands, and he kind of looked over his shoulder, indicating he wanted me to come over and ID it.
It's one of two things. Can I guess?
Go for it. I know what she's going to say.
It's marijuana, or
was it poison ivy?
Or it's poison ivy.
Was it marijuana?
I was going to say poison ivy.
I look at it and I go, "Oh, that's poison ivy."
I knew it. Here's where you two go. Me and Richard are poison ivy. All right, then. I love it.
It's a very hardy plant.
Oh,
hemp is.
It was hilarious.
Have you? But so in that case, somebody brings poison ivy in. I mean, now.
Well, the funny part was it wasn't poison ivy.
Oh, okay, got it.
So, when they looked at me, look at
Richard's
this, what
just
is
mean.
this? And I was like, "Oh, well, that's poison ivy." They immediately dropped it, and
That's
I
funny.
said, "I'm just kidding. That's not poison ivy."
That's funny.
Jeez.
What about you, Robin? What's been the? Because last time you told us about an interesting story where you had some seed that someone thought they had planted. It turns out it wasn't your seed. And had it not been for a garage door opening, you wouldn't have been able to help that customer.
Right.
But that's the thing. You made a house call.
Yeah.
Which was super cool. That's
Yeah,
above
that was
and beyond.
that was a cool situation. Yeah, I had a guy walk in with a baggie, carried in the baggie like usual. Everybody comes in with a baggie.
What are you smiling for?
And he
Mackenzie?
shoves it straight into my face and says, "What kind of snake is this?"
Come on. No.
Mike would lose his mind.
And I was just, dude.
That's a nope rope.
First of all, it's a good thing you shoved it in my face because I'm not really bothered by snakes
Mike
too much.
would walk out the
Although
door
it
and
would've-
quit.
It was a little alarming, but I swear if he'd have handed, I've got a couple staff members that probably would have quit that.
Sure.
day. And I was just like, "Sir, what are you doing?" So yeah, it was a little snake that he'd killed. It was just a little garter snake, and it was next to his car in the driveway, so he smashed its
I'm
head
moving
and
at
put it in
that
a bag
point.
and brought it to grass pad.
Why would
because
you bring it to
why wouldn't you?
Jeez.
Should have just left it alone. It eats
All
crickets.
right.
Yeah. Best pest control he had, and he smoked it.
On that note.
But
On
anyway.
that note, Mackenzie, I hate snakes. I hate them. That's why, listen, I will tell you, if I was working at the grass pad, which I can tell you, I would learn a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to those pallets where they're on the ground, they've been sitting there, for a day or two, I'd have somebody else pick up that last bag of whatever it is, just
Oh
in
gosh,
case.
I never thought about that.
You never know what's underneath
I
those
never.
pallets.
Those things didn't.
Ever.
That's not something I would have thought about.
All right, well, Grass Pad Warehouse, I'm telling you, they've had take care of any of your needs this spring and summer. Yes, it's the grass. Yes, it's the seed. Yes, it's the fertilizer. All the plants, but also tomato plants, all that stuff.
Oh yeah.
This is prime vegetable
This is it.
planting,
Get 'em in the
and
ground.
They are in stock, ready to buy.
And they look good.
Yeah.
Because last time you guys were getting ready to, the trucks were coming in, you guys were getting ready to unload, and now
Oh yeah,
we're
it's
set.
a fun time.
Richard, we see you all over TV. Richard, which location are you primarily at?
So I'm at the Lee Summit location.
Gotcha, that's right. And you're at the Stillwell location,
That's
right,
right,
Robin?
Stillwell.
Perfect. So
Is that the
again,
one we're going to go to, Mike?
Come on
Well,
down
on
to
our field
Stillwell.
trip?
we're either going to run by there. Well, you know what? Since Robin's there, we'll go to Stillwell.
Okay.
Because, we also, Olathe, we got a location. in
We're
Olathe
going
we
to
can hit up.
Stillwell. No, you said Stillwell. That's where we're going.
It's a
Okay,
nice
let's see,
little
Robin.
drive out to the country.
On a
Come on
field
down.
trip.
There we go. All right, we'll do this again coming up in the fall because, listen, there's more to this plan. But if you got questions, definitely take some pics. Get in to see the grass pad, all the crew in there. They'll take great care of you. Richard, Robin, thanks again.
Thank you guys.
We'll see you soon.
Nice to see you.
Field trip.